The ultimatum's Echo Captain Nora Sinclair stood at the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Artemis, watching the stars with a contemplative gaze. Her coffee had grown cold, forgotten in her hand, as her mind wandered to 3 years ago when humanity had first made contact with the Hegemony Council. Back then, those distant lights had represented opportunity and discovery. Now they felt like distant watchtowers, monitoring humanity's every move. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Devon Walsh's voice broke through her thoughts. A colony vessel. Horizon has been intercepted and turned away from the Epsilon Eridani system. Nora turned, setting down her mug with a sharp click against the metal console. That's the 4th ship this month. How many civilians aboard? Nearly 12,000 colonists, sir. Families mostly, Walsh replied, his usually composed face betraying frustration. The Council enforcers cited territorial preservation protocols again. And where are they supposed to go now? Nora asked, already knowing the answer. Back to the waiting list. The Council representative suggested they might reapply in 7 years. Nora's jaw tightened. 7 years. By then, most of those families would have abandoned their dreams of building new lives on distant worlds. The observation deck door hissed open, revealing Dr. Elijah Frost. As Earth's primary diplomatic liaison to the Hegemony Council, Frost had once embodied humanity's optimism about joining the galactic community. Now his face carried the weathered look of someone who'd spent 3 years watching his hopes crumble. "We need to talk," Frost said, his voice low and urgent, privately. Walsh nodded discreetly and left them alone. Frost waited until the door closed before pulling out a data tablet from his jacket. "I've just come from an emergency council session," he said, activating the tablet to display a formal document embossed with the Hegemony's 12-pointed insignia. "They're calling it a species protection measure. In reality, it's an ultimatum." Nora took the tablet, scanning the diplomatic language that poorly disguised the document's true nature. Protected species status? What does that mean exactly? It means humanity stays in our home system. Earth, Mars, the lunar colonies, that's it. We'd be permitted 3 additional colony worlds, all chosen by the Council, all monitored by Council peacekeepers. Frost's voice carried the hollow tone of a man delivering his own execution order. "And if we refuse? Economic sanctions first, then military intervention." Nora read further, her stomach tightening at the politely worded threats. "They claim we're expanding too aggressively, that our military development is concerning other species." Frost laughed bitterly. "That's the public reason. The real one is much simpler." He took the tablet back and pulled up a star chart showing human expansion compared to other Council species. In just 3 years since first contact, humanity had established 18 colonies, with 7 more under development. Human ships were traveling faster and further than most Council designs, with defensive capabilities that matched vessels from civilizations thousands of years older. "They're afraid of us," Frost said quietly. "Not of what we're doing, but of what we might become." "How do you know this?" "I've made friends among the Council representatives. One of them, a junior diplomat named Kreshala, showed me classified communications between Council leadership." Frost's expression darkened. "They project that at our current rate of growth and technological advancement, humanity could challenge Council authority within 20 years. They want to contain us now, while they still can." The station's communication system chimed, interrupting them. "Captain Sinclair," came the voice of Communications Officer Patel, "Admiral Harrison is requesting immediate conference with all command staff. Priority Alpha." Nora exchanged a look with Frost. "This is it, isn't it? They're going to tell us to comply. The Council has given us 48 hours to accept their terms," Frost confirmed. "Inspection teams are already en route to catalog our military assets." Nora reached for the come button, then hesitated. She thought about the Horizon's passengers, returning to Earth with their dreams shattered. She thought about the millions of humans across 18 colonies who had built new lives among the stars. She thought about her sister's children, born on Mars, who had never seen Earth's blue skies. Would they spend their lives in a cage built by aliens who feared human potential? "Captain Sinclair, please respond," came Patel's voice again. Nora pressed the button. Acknowledged. "Tell Admiral Harrison I'll be there in 5 minutes." She turned to Frost. "Before we go, I need to know something. What do you think the Council will do if we say no?" Frost's eyes met hers, unwavering. No species has ever refused protected status before. The hegemony has maintained galactic control for over 2,000 years, because everyone believes resistance is futile. "You didn't answer my question, Doctor." "They'll try to make an example of us," he said finally. "They'll target a smaller colony first, to show they're serious. They expect that will be enough to break our will." Nora nodded. Decision made. Then, "They've never met humans before?" As they walked toward the conference room, Nora felt something settle inside her, not fear, but clarity. For 3 years, humanity had played by the Council's rules, believing cooperation would earn them respect. Now they knew the truth. In the hegemony's eyes, humans would never be equals. Only one path remained. "Dr. Frost," she said as they reached the conference room doors, "I think it's time we showed the galaxy what happens when you corner a species that evolved from predators." Defiance among the stars commander Julian Pierce squinted through the viewport of the defense cruiser, relentless as Council warships emerged from hyperspace near Colony Horizon. 3 massive vessels, each large enough to house a small city, positioning themselves in a blockade formation. "They're hailing us, sir," Lieutenant Fiona Reed announced from her communications station, her fingers hovering above the response controls. Julian straightened his uniform jacket. 2 weeks had passed since humanity had rejected the Council's ultimatum. 2 weeks of preparations, evacuations, and strategic deployments. Now the waiting was over. On screen, he ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, azure-skinned being with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Julian recognized the species from briefings. Telvari, one of the founding members of the Hegemony Council. "Human vessel," the alien said, voice translator giving his words a metallic undertone. "I am Supreme Commander Dravter of the Hegemony Peacekeeping Force. Your species has violated Council Directive 7329 by refusing protected status. You will power down your defensive systems and prepare for boarding." Julian kept his expression neutral. "This is Commander Julian Pierce of the Earth Defense Force. Colony Horizon is a sovereign human settlement. Your presence here constitutes an act of aggression. You have 1 hour to comply," Dravter continued as if Julian hadn't spoken. "Resistance will result in appropriate corrective measures." The transmission ended abruptly. Julian turned to his tactical officer. "Status of evacuation?" "Civilian transports are at 89% completion, sir. We need another 40 minutes to get the remaining colonists to safety." Julian nodded. "Then we'll give them 40 minutes. Battle stations. On the Hegemony diplomatic vessel Concord, Dr. Elijah Frost found himself in an uncomfortable position. Technically, he was now an enemy of the Council, but his diplomatic credentials hadn't been revoked. He had been meeting with sympathetic Council representatives when news of the first confrontation reached them. "Your military cannot hope to prevail," said Kreshala, a slender, gray-skinned diplomat from the Nahari Confederation. Unlike most Council representatives, she had always treated humans as equals. "The Hegemony has never lost a containment action in 2,000 years. Perhaps that's why it's time someone challenged them," Elijah replied, watching tactical displays, showing Council forces converging on human colonies. Kreshala moved closer, her four-fingered hand almost touching his. I admire your species' courage, Elijah, but I fear for your people. Something in her voice made him look up. Their eyes met, and he saw genuine concern in her silvery gaze. The Council doesn't understand humans, he said softly. We've spent our entire history fighting against limitations. It's woven into our DNA. And what about those of us who don't wish to see humans extinct? Her voice dropped to a whisper. There are factions within the Council who disagree with this action. Elijah felt a flutter of hope, and something else, something personal, he hadn't expected to feel for someone from another species. Then, perhaps you should watch closely what happens next. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Harrison stood in the Global Defense Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The massive chamber, carved from solid granite, housed the nerve center of humanity's military response. Status report, he demanded, eyes fixed on the holographic display showing human colonies and approaching Council forces. Colony Horizon is engaged with Council warships, reported Strategic Director Patricia Torres, her face grim. Commander Pierce is buying time for civilian evacuation. And our other colonies? Implementing Protocol Diaspora, as ordered, sir. Civilian populations are dispersing to hidden locations, while defense forces prepare delaying actions. Harrison nodded. Conventional wisdom said humanity couldn't win a direct confrontation with the hegemony's superior numbers and technology. But conventional wisdom assumed conventional warfare. Activate Operation Phantom, he ordered. All colony defenders are authorized to use guerrilla protocols once civilians are secure. Back at Colony Horizon, Julian Pierce watched the countdown timer with growing tension. 32 minutes until evacuation completion. The Council vessels had begun moving into attack position. Sir, they're powering weapons, Lieutenant Reed reported. Raise shields. Activate point defense systems. Julian opened a channel to the engine room. Chief Navarro, I need everything you've got on the maneuvering thrusters. Already ahead of you, Commander, came the reply from the ship's engineer. We'll dance circles around those behemoths. The first energy blast from the lead Council vessel splashed against the Relentless's shields, causing the ship to shudder. Return fire, Julian ordered. Target their weapon systems only. Make them work for every minute. The human vessel, smaller and more agile than its opponents, unleashed a barrage of precision fire that struck the Council ship's main cannon. The surprise was evident when the Relentless executed a maneuver that should have been impossible for a vessel its size, evading the second Council ship's attack entirely. 28 minutes to evacuation completion, Reed announced. Julian gripped his command chair. Then we give them 28 minutes of hell. On Colony Horizon surface, Patricia Torres directed the final evacuation procedures. A former military officer before becoming a colonial administrator, she now found herself once again in command during crisis. Priority to children and medical cases, she instructed as families rushed toward the waiting transport ships. Everyone else follows designated group assignments. The ground shook as orbital defense platforms engaged Council vessels above. A young woman stumbled nearby, and Patricia caught her arm, steadying her. Thank you, the woman gasped, clutching. A small child to her chest. Patricia guided them toward the nearest transport. Just keep moving. We've trained for this. A Council scout craft penetrated the defensive screen, streaking toward the colony's center. Patricia watched in horror as it launched missiles toward the main evacuation platform. Incoming! She shouted, but before panic could spread, the colony's ground-based defense batteries responded, intercepting the missiles in mid-air. The explosion temporarily blinded everyone on the platform. When Patricia could see again, she found herself lying on the ground, ears ringing. She staggered to her feet, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Status report. She demanded into her communicator. All transport ships loaded and ready for launch, came the reply. But the Council vessels are moving to block orbital exit vectors. Patricia made a split-second decision. Launch all transports simultaneously. Maximum thrust. The defense platforms will concentrate fire to create a corridor. That's against safety protocols. Do it now, she ordered. We won't get another chance. As the transports roared into the sky, Patricia watched them climb toward the stars, toward freedom. Above, the relentless executed an impossibly daring attack run, drawing fire from all 3 Council vessels to give the civilian ships their opening. The cost would be high, but as she watched the last transport clear the atmosphere, Patricia knew humanity had just delivered its answer to the Hegemony Council. They would not submit. They would not surrender. They would fight. Fractures and Alliance's ambassador Talia Reeves had never expected to conduct diplomacy in a maintenance tunnel. Yet here she was, crouched in the dimly lit passage beneath a supposedly abandoned mining facility on a nameless asteroid in neutral space. Across from her sat Zenith, representative of the Bernari, a species that had remained carefully neutral in the escalating conflict between humanity and the Hegemony Council. My government appreciates the risk you're taking, Talia said quietly, aware that discovery would mean execution for the alien diplomat. Zenith's translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, a Bernari equivalent of a grim smile. The Council's actions against your species have disturbed many of us who remember our own history. You were once targeted for containment as well? 800 years ago? We surrendered and accepted protected status. Zenith's light patterns dimmed. We've regretted it ever since. Talia leaned forward. Why reach out now? The Council is fracturing from within. Their methods against humans have been excessive. Bombardment of civilian outposts, biological attacks on agricultural colonies. Zenith extended a data crystal. This contains technical specifications for Council shield frequencies and patrol routes. My government cannot officially help you, but unofficially. We'll make good use of this, Talia promised, securing the crystal in her jacket. And when this is over, humanity will remember who stood with us. Dr. Elijah Frost hadn't seen the sun in nearly 6 weeks. Hidden in the subterranean levels of a Council archival facility, he and Kurshala had transformed a forgotten storage room into an impromptu peace negotiation center. The dissenting faction now includes representatives from 4 major Council species. Kurshala reported, her slender fingers arranging holographic markers representing potential allies. Not enough to force a policy change, but enough to create significant disruption. Elijah studied the display. We need more. The latest reports indicate Council forces are preparing a major offensive against our remaining colony worlds. Kurshala moved closer, her hand finding his in the dim light. What had begun as professional respect had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated, a connection that transcended species differences. There's something else, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. Commander Vex Talon has contacted our faction. He wishes to defect. Elijah's head snapped up. Vex Talon? The commander of the 7th Enforcement Fleet? The same. He's been systematically sabotaging Council operations for weeks after witnessing the bombardment of human civilian targets. Kurshala's expression became grave. He's bringing sensitive tactical information, but extracting him will be dangerous. Elijah squeezed her hand. If we can demonstrate Council forces actively opposing their own leadership, it could legitimize our resistance in the eyes of neutral species, and convince more Council members to break ranks, Kurshala finished. There. Eyes met, the unspoken acknowledgement of what they both risked hanging between them. We should arrange the extraction, Elijah said finally. Kurshala nodded, but didn't move away. Instead, she leaned forward until their foreheads touched, an intimate gesture among her people. "In my culture," she whispered, "this means I entrust you with my thoughts, my secrets." Elijah closed his eyes, allowing himself this moment of connection amid the chaos of war. "In mine," he replied softly, "it means much the same." The battle for Proxima Station unfolded with brutal intensity. Once a peaceful research outpost, the station had been converted into a forward base for human resistance after its civilian population was evacuated. Captain Nora Sinclair watched from the bridge of the now battle-scarred Phantom as Council warships closed in on their position. "They found our weakness," Marcus reported from Tactical. "Their sensors are detecting our engine heat signatures when we maneuver at full speed." Nora studied the tactical display. They were outnumbered 5-1, with reinforcements still 20 minutes away. "Can we hold that long?" "Not with conventional tactics," Marcus admitted. "But Dr. Winter's sonic disruptor is ready for field testing." Nora weighed the decision. The device was untested in actual combat, but they were running out of options. "Prepare the disruptor," she ordered. "Target the command ship first." As Marcus calibrated the weapon, Nora opened a channel to all human vessels in the battle group. "All ships, this is Captain Sinclair. Converge on the Phantom's position and prepare for coordinated strike. On my mark, all vessels divert power to shields and communication systems." "Captain," Marcus said quietly, "if this works." "When this works," she corrected him, her hand briefly touching his shoulder. He looked up at her, a mix of determination and something deeper in his eyes. "When this is over, we need to talk about us." "I'd like that," she replied, allowing herself a moment of hope before returning to the task at hand. Fire disruptor. The device activated, sending carefully calibrated acoustic waves through the vacuum via specialized carrier particles. On the Council vessels, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Bridge crews froze, their neurological systems hijacked by the signal that triggered ancient prey instincts. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed. "Council ships have ceased fire. Their defensive systems are inactive." "All vessels, commence boarding operations," Nora ordered. "Secure those ships before the effect wears off." As human boarding parties rushed to capture the temporarily paralyzed Council vessels, a new signal appeared on the long-range sensors. "Captain," Communications Officer Jiao reported, "we're receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel. It's Council Commander Vex Talon. He says he's defecting with his entire command staff and tactical database." For the first time since the war began, Nora allowed herself to smile. "It seems the hegemony isn't as united as they wanted us to believe." The battle for Proxima Station would be remembered as the turning point, not just because it was humanity's first major victory, but because it revealed the first significant cracks in the Council's previously impenetrable facade of unity. A new dawn rises. The colony world of Terra Nova gleamed like a jewel against the blackness of space, its atmosphere swirling with clouds that concealed the last major human settlement, still openly defying Council authority. 6 months of guerrilla warfare had depleted both sides, but now the Council had committed its full might to crushing this final symbol of human resistance. From the command deck of the Earth flagship Defiance, Admiral Harrison surveyed the gathered human fleet 147. Vessels of various sizes and classes, many bearing the scars of previous engagements. "The largest fleet humanity has ever assembled," noted Strategic Director Patricia Torres, who had been evacuated from Colony Horizon in the war's early days, "and still outnumbered 3-1. Harrison nodded grimly. "Numbers aren't everything." "Status of Dr. Winter's sonic disruptors?" "All ships equipped and calibrated, sir. But Council forces have begun adapting their neural shielding. Effectiveness is estimated at 60% and declining with each engagement." "Then we make this one count," Harrison replied. What about Vex Talon's forces? Moving into position behind the Council fleet, maintaining communication silence as planned. Harrison studied the tactical display once more. Everything depended on timing, on coordination between forces that had never trained together, on technologies barely tested in combat conditions. Signal all ships, he ordered. Operation Liberty begins in 30 minutes. Captain Nora Sinclair stood beside Marcus Reed on the bridge of the Phantom, now serving as the tip of the spear for humanity's stealth attack wing. Around them, 20 similar vessels maintained position, their advanced cloaking systems rendering them invisible to Council sensors. Strike teams report ready, Marcus said, his voice professional despite the personal stakes. Last night had been their first opportunity in weeks to be alone together, to acknowledge the relationship that had grown between them amid the chaos of war. Nora nodded, checking the chronometer. -15 minutes. Begin final approach. Vector. As the stealth wing glided silently toward the Council fleet's vulnerable rear positions, Nora allowed herself a moment of reflection. 6 months of fighting had changed her, changed all of them. They had learned to be both warriors and shadows, striking hard, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. Council command ship identified, Marcus reported. Targeting systems. Locked. Nora moved to stand beside him, their shoulders touching briefly. We'll have one chance at this. The disruptor has to hit their command deck precisely. Marcus looked up at her, determination in his eyes. It will. I calibrated it myself. The chronometer counted down the final minutes. Throughout the fleet, humans prepared for what might be their final battle, not just for territory or resources, but for their right to exist freely among the stars in the neutral diplomatic vessel where peace negotiations had secretly continued. Dr. Elijah Frost and Kreshala monitored the approaching confrontation with mounting tension. Your Admiral Harrison is either a tactical genius or completely insane, Kreshala observed, watching the human fleet formations. Possibly both. Elijah smiled despite the gravity of the situation. That's humanity in a nutshell. Their fingers, intertwined beneath the conference table, hidden from the other representatives who had gradually joined their clandestine peace initiative. The Council Supreme Commander has rejected our latest proposal, reported a Brenari diplomat. They demand unconditional human surrender. Then they'll have their answer on the battlefield, Elijah replied. But regardless of today's outcome, what we've built here remains important. A foundation for a different kind of future. Kreshala's hand tightened around his. If your fleet falls, then you'll continue without me, he said quietly. The movement is bigger than any of us now. Around the table, representatives from 7 species, including 4 council members, nodded in solemn agreement. Whatever happened today, the hegemony's unquestioned domination of galactic affairs was ending. The battle erupted with synchronized precision. As the Council fleet moved to engage the main human battle group, Nora's stealth wing decloaked simultaneously, launching disruptors at designated command ships. Direct hits on 7 primary targets, Marcus reported as the Phantom banked sharply to avoid counterfire. Disruptor effectiveness at 58%. Across the battlefield, affected Council vessels drifted momentarily as their crews succumbed to the neurological attack. Human boarding parties launched immediately, targeting navigation and weapon systems. Admiral Harrison's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. All vessels, execute Phase 2, Defensive Formation Delta. The human fleet reconfigured with practiced efficiency, creating overlapping fields of fire that forced the Council vessels to bunch together, exactly as planned. Vex Talon's forces detected, Communications Officer Zhao announced. They've dropped out of hyperspace behind the Council fleet. 33 Council vessels, their identifying markers altered to hide their true allegiance. opened fire on their former comrades. The Council formation, already destabilized by the sonic attacks, began to fracture under assault from an unexpected quarter. "They're breaking formation," Marcus reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. Council communication channels are in chaos. Nora allowed herself a tight smile. "Target their flagship. All disruptors, maximum power." The Phantom and its sister ships converged on the massive Council command vessel, unleashing a concentrated disruptor barrage that overwhelmed its neural shielding. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Harrison watched the Council flagship go dark, its defensive systems offline. "All vessels, cease fire," he ordered. "Open communication channel to all Council ships." His message was brief. "Hegemony forces, your command structure is compromised. We have boarding parties on 27 of your vessels. Defecting Council. Commanders have targeted your retreat vectors. You are offered honorable surrender with full prisoner protections under Earth conventions of warfare." For a tense minute, no response came. Then, one by one, Council vessels began powering down their weapon systems. 3 weeks later, the neutral diplomatic vessel Concord hosted the formal peace negotiations. Representatives from all Council species sat across from the human delegation. The traditional hierarchy of the hegemony, visibly absent from the proceedings. Dr. Elijah Frost, now serving as humanity's chief negotiator, presented the terms that had been carefully crafted through months of secret diplomacy. "Humanity does not seek dominance or revenge," he stated, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "We seek only the right to determine our own path among the stars, and to ensure that no species faces the threat of extinction for the crime of potential." Kreshala, now openly representing the reformed Council faction, rose to address the gathering. "The war has demonstrated that the old ways of the hegemony are unsustainable. No civilization can truly thrive under the constant threat of containment. We propose a new compact, one based on mutual respect rather than dominance and submission." Throughout the chamber, representatives nodded in agreement. The conflict had revealed weaknesses in the Council structure that could no longer be ignored. Species that had accepted protection centuries ago now saw in humanity's resistance a path to their own renewal. On the Defiance, now in orbit around Terra Nova, Captain Nora Sinclair stood with Marcus Reed, watching the peace proceedings via secure transmission. "Do you think it will last?" Marcus asked, his arm around her waist. Nora considered the question, thinking of all they had endured, all they had lost and found during the conflict. "Not forever, nothing does, but long enough to build something better." As the first signatures were affixed to the new Galactic Charter, Nora turned away from the screen, facing the viewport instead. Beyond the glass, the stars no longer seemed like prison bars. They had become, once again, points of light guiding humanity toward a future of their own choosing. "What now?" Marcus asked, following her gaze. Nora smiled, taking his hand in hers. "Now we explore, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals among the stars." Around them, the crew of the Defiance went about their duties with renewed purpose. The war was ending, but humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning. The silent blade Captain Nora Sinclair's stealth frigate Phantom sliced through the darkness of space, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Council detection systems. 3 months into the war, humanity had abandoned conventional tactics entirely, embracing a strategy that played to their strengths: speed, adaptability, and unpredictability. "Target in visual range," reported Tactical Officer Marcus Reed, his voice low despite the fact that Council sensors couldn't hear them. Old habits died hard in the silence of stealth operations. Nora moved to stand behind him, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Their relationship had evolved in the pressure cooker of war, professional boundaries blurring during long missions in close quarters. "Show me," she said at the main screen, displayed a massive council. Supply convoy, 12 cargo vessels escorted by 3 warships. The convoy carried replacement parts and ammunition for the Council fleet blockading the Tau Ceti system. "Scan for weak points," Nora ordered. Marcus's fingers danced across his console, his movements precise and efficient. Nora found herself watching his hands, remembering how they had traced patterns on her skin the night before. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the mission. "The lead escort vessel has minimal shielding on its port nacelle," Marcus reported. "One targeted strike could disable its propulsion systems." Nora nodded. "And without their fastest escort, the convoy would be forced to slow down, giving our attack wing time to intercept," Marcus finished her thought, a slight smile playing. At the corner of his mouth, Nora returned to her command chair. "Communications, signal the strike team. We move in 5 minutes." In a hidden laboratory on asteroid base Delta 7, Dr. Olivia Winters stared at the results of her latest tests. For months, she had been studying council biology, searching for any advantage that might help humanity survive the overwhelming odds they faced. "Run the simulation again," she instructed her AI assistant. "Focus on neurotransmitter responses to varying frequency ranges." The holographic display reconfigured, showing neural pathways of various council species reacting to specific sound. "Patterns. Fascinating," Olivia murmured, leaning closer. "They all share the same vulnerability." She compiled her findings and opened a secure channel to Fleet Admiral Harrison. "Admiral, I believe I've found something significant. Council species evolved from prey animals, not predators. Their neural systems are hypersensitive to certain acoustic frequencies that trigger a vestigial freeze response." Harrison's hologram studied her data. "You're saying we could potentially incapacitate Council forces without killing them?" "Temporarily, yes. A properly calibrated sonic pulse would trigger an involuntary paralysis lasting between 45 seconds and 2 minutes, depending on the species. Long enough to board a vessel or breach a defensive position," Harrison concluded. "Dr. Winters, this could change everything. How soon can you develop a deployable version?" Olivia straightened, determination in her eyes. "Give me 2 weeks." Council Commander Vex Talon stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser, watching footage from the latest human attack. The small, agile vessels had appeared from nowhere, striking with surgical precision before vanishing again. "How many casualties?" he asked his second-in-command. 17 dead, 34 injured. "Minimal, considering the attack's effectiveness." Vex Talon frowned. This contradicted everything the Council leadership had told him about humans, that they were bloodthirsty, indiscriminate killers. Yet every report showed the same pattern. Human forces targeted military assets while avoiding unnecessary casualties. "Commander," his communications officer interrupted, "we've intercepted human transmissions. They appear to be evacuating civilians from Outpost Theta." "Theta?" Vex Talon questioned. "That's not a military installation." "No, sir. Population approximately 500, mostly researchers and their families." Vex Talon felt unease grow within him. "And what are our orders regarding Theta?" "Supreme Command has designated it a demonstration target. The arbitrator will arrive in 6 hours to carry out planetary bombardment." The bridge fell silent. Planetary bombardment of a civilian outpost. This wasn't warfare. It was terrorism. "Send me the complete intelligence file on Outpost Theta," Vex Talon ordered, "and prepare my shuttle. I wish to inspect our forward positions personally." Back aboard the Phantom, Nora and her crew watched their plan unfold with precision. The disabled escort ship drifted helplessly as the main council convoy scattered in confusion. Strike Team reports successful engagement, Communications Officer Jiao announced. All primary targets neutralized with minimal casualties on both sides. Nora allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Begin Phase 2. One want those supply ships boarded and their navigation data extracted. Marcus rose from his station. Captain, request permission to lead the boarding party. Nora hesitated. Protocol suggested she should keep her tactical officer on the bridge, but Marcus was also her best close-quarters combat specialist. Granted, she said finally, but I want you back in one piece, Lieutenant. Their eyes met briefly, conveying more than words could in the presence of the crew. Count on it, he replied. As Marcus left the bridge, Nora turned her attention back to the operation. This war would be won through 1,000 small victories, each one buying humanity time to develop the technologies and strategies they needed to survive. The boarding party shuttles detached from the Phantom, accelerating toward the disabled council vessels. Nora watched them go, her thoughts drifting to the stolen moments of connection that kept them human amid the brutal calculus of war. Behind enemy lines, across impossible distances, humanity fought not just for survival, but for the freedom to determine their own destiny among the stars.